Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Sarah. Thanks for joining me today on the topic of hormones. I am continuing that topic on this dreary northeastern day that's kind of forewarning the upcoming spooky month of October. I'm going to try to unspook the kind of hormonal craziness that can happen with people when they're trying to assess how to balance their hormones and have been through a lot trying to find the just right dose. What I want to talk to you today about is why swallowing, injecting, rubbing, and or applying bioidentical or synthetic replacement is actually the last thing I think about when balancing hormones for my client. Let me give you a little background. So I've already discussed ad nauseum how essential oils can help provide hormonal harmony through their indirect effects on our endocrine system. Specifically, I went over how they have a way and an innate ability to balance our psychology, our physiology, and our biochemistry at the same time. Basically, they affect our mind, body, and spirit all at once. And one of the most amazing things that they can do to help balance out our hormonal problems is that they affect our stress. Just by their sense of smell alone, smell has an instantaneous emotional response. So if you find a pleasant smell that is associated with a wonderful experience, that can help bring someone out of a negative mood or stress state very quickly. Another reason that they can help with a stress response is they do actually affect different pathways in our body. They are molecules from the plant that actually interact with our cells and cause healthier ways for the cells to express themselves, either by modulating oxidative stress, which can damage the cell, inflammatory pathways. They can affect our neurotransmitter feedback. They can affect once again, the cortisol response, because they'll be bringing down the stress response, and that affects our estrogen and our testosterone and our sex hormone balance. The more stressed someone is, it actually down-regulates their sex hormones. So you can read all about that ad nauseum on my website at dr-lobisco.com. What I want to talk to you about today is more of a naturopathic and functional medicine approach. Of course, I include essential oils as a tool for helping balance hormones, but that's one tool. There's many other underlying factors that are important to address with hormonal harmony. I tried to break down these essential points in a previous article I wrote in a quick snippet video that I posted on Facebook. I went through how assessing hormonal levels can get pretty complex, and that it's important to have someone know what the laboratory measurements are actually saying, because there's a difference in serum, salivary, and urinary metabolites of hormones and what they're showing in the body. I like to tell people that just because the hormone is in the blood doesn't mean it's doing what it needs to do or going where it needs to go. It's kind of like when you put a letter in the mail. It might be in the mail system, but it doesn't mean it's gotten to the mailbox yet and produced the response that you want it to have, whether it be placing an order or putting a smile on someone's face or kind of a scary note to someone that you want them to receive. I don't know why you do that, but it just came to me, so I'll go with it. One of the other important things to know about hormones is that it's really important how they're metabolized in the body. What ends up happening is sometimes people look at lab levels and they just assume that the serum level or the salivary level is, what the body is producing, and it isn't. It's a complete kind of an addition of also, how the body is excreting that hormone and how it's being metabolized and used in the body. So someone could have really high estrogen or really high cortisol shown up in a salivary or serum test, and the reason could be is that they're not excreting it effectively. It isn't necessarily because they're producing too much. So that'll guide treatment and how somebody looks at the hormones. So even if someone, I'm in New York State, so if someone can't get a urinary metabolite test and they've already come to me on hormones or thinking about it, I would want to know their history of kind of detoxifying and if they're sensitive to chemicals, and keep that in mind when I'm looking at if we're going to be referring them to someone for bioidentical or even getting a prescription for a hormone replacement. As a side note, I found that I rarely have to do that when I get to the third point, which is getting to the root cause of why they had those imbalances to begin with. And all that and kind of some specific examples is going to be released on an upcoming blog on naturopaths. So stay tuned for that. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about why it's really important to understand the different interactions and all the different effects that hormones have in the body. So I'm going to go through kind of the unintended effects that can occur if you're just trying to balance levels or just trying to use a hormone to treat a symptom in the body. So keep this in mind. It's kind of a forewarning of that spooky October month. But once you understand it, it's not really that scary. It's kind of a treat then to treat your body well and do everything that you can to balance out things that are going to make your overall wellness better before you go kind of poking and prodding the body with hormones. So the first big point is that you could throw off a big feedback loop, right? You want to know what you're playing with. So hormones are so powerful and they have such a profound effect throughout their whole body, not just on the target organs, that there's this very delicate balance and regulatory system that the body has set up. And for the most part, for most hormones, not all of them, some of them have a direct effect just based on the levels, and then the organ will get feedback to either increase or decrease it, kind of like insulin with the pancreas. If you have a working pancreas and pituitary and hormones, but for most sex hormones, there's your hypothalamus. These are all parts of the brain, the pituitary, and then the actual target organ. All are in communication. So the hypothalamus is kind of looking at the blood levels and seeing if more hormone needs to be released or not. Then it's going to send a signal to the pituitary, which is going to tell it either stimulate that sex organ to go ahead and produce more hormone, or just lay off the signal and let it rest a little bit. And just like in humans, there can be miscommunication at any of those three levels. Have you ever played the game telephone? So you kind of know how the message can get interfered with. And especially if you're putting something in that's a little bit different than the body or identical to the body, and the body doesn't really know how it got there, it can have different effects that aren't well known or intended. So that's reason one why you don't just want to throw hormones in your body without knowing, the importance of them and all that they affect. Reason two is, I've kind of already hinted at that, is that they have system-wide effects and complex interactions. So I provided an example on the article that I wrote this week with the thyroid. And I stated, that the article was pretty intense. I gave a link to it, and it made me a little cross-eyed. And my vision was blurry by the end, so I don't even know if I read the whole paper, but I tried. In some of the basic points, using the thyroid hormone as an example, because it has such a wide impact on our body, it's kind of what regulates our metabolism, is that there's a lot of different organs affected by the thyroid hormone. There's thyroid receptors in a lot of different organs that affect our cells, even the pancreas. Even, different things that you wouldn't, or organs that you wouldn't think of. There's different hormonal sites of regulation. There's different conversion sites of the thyroid. Most people don't know that the inactive form can be activated in the periphery and in the gut and in the liver. So if you're not doing things for your gut and your liver and you're doing thyroid replacement, you might just be putting in the hormone but not actually activating it or giving it the nutrients it needs to make that conversion. So that's important. There's the role of thyroid hormone converting enzymes. Some people have variations in that. Some people have variations in how they detoxify these hormones, as I already kind of mentioned. And there's resistance to thyroid hormones that can occur due to genetics or different lifestyle patterns or toxins. These are all things to be aware of. So just kind of throwing in thyroid hormone without looking at that or having somebody modulate those pathways might not bring it to optimal balance and functioning. This is just an example for thyroid, but the same holds true for estrogen. There's estrogen receptors all throughout the body, and progesterone. Many people aren't aware of those progesterone creams that they're just applying as if they're regular moisturizers. Are very hard to measure levels in saliva, urinary, or serum. It's hard to get a good measurement just because of the way that the body stores the progesterone cream, and it's hard to get a good reading of the progesterone because of its half-life. And also because it can actually, if your body is insulin resistant, it can turn the progesterone to cortisol. So you got to be aware of these things before you just go rubbing on a cream because you think you're estrogen dominant. So keep that in mind. And then another major reason number 3, is there's the principles of hormone production, utilization, and regulation. So all the complexity I talked about its feedback mechanisms, its multi-system effects, use that with just one hormone, multiply it by many, and look at the fact that you also need to produce it correctly and the building blocks for that, transport where it needs to go, make sure that it's sensitive, that the organs that are going to pick it up are going to read it right and do what it needs to do, and then also make sure it's detoxified. The funny thing that they help us remember those important points in functional medicine and when I was getting my certification is they called it PTSD, right? Because there's so much to know about hormones. You can get PTSD from memorizing the different pathways, production, transport, if there's sensitivity, and the distribution and detoxification. So these are all really important reasons to remember if you're reaching for an over-the-counter, cream with hormones or just trying to supplement it on your own. You could be playing symptom whack-a-mole, and you could be causing unintended symptoms that you don't even realize are related to the hormones that you're taking. Blood sugar imbalances or gut issues or, anything, because hormones affect everything. So make sure that you find someone that can help you address the root cause and know, all these different factors that are interacting when you're trying to balance your hormones. And if you or someone you love is using, hormone replacement or bioidentical, make sure that you talk with their doc, have them talk with their doctor and their prescribing doc, and even give them the information. They would love to, I'm sure, know this. There was, on my last blog, I actually gave a link to some of the things to look for as far as when you're measuring hormones and what that actually is telling us and what it won't tell us and what the physician should be aware of. So be informed and play an active part in your healthcare, and always remember that what I'm telling you isn't meant to replace, diagnose, treat, prescribe, or do any of the stuff that would be found in a regular disclaimer. This is for your education and empowerment only, and I hope it has educated and empowered you with some wonderful hormone information. I'm pretty passionate about this, and I've seen a lot of wonderful results when I do the lifestyle and look at the underlying root cause that very rarely will I need to refer out for someone to actually replace their hormones. Okay? So thanks for listening and have a wonderful day. I hope it's shinier and sunshinier where you are than it is here right now in this dreary rain, but I guess we need it, so it's not a bad thing. All right, thanks for joining me, and I'll be back soon. Have a great day.